So I want to make a video on how being abused does not mean that you're not responsible for your actions. So let's talk about accountability. So every therapist I've ever had, in terms of the explanation as to why I was abused, thinks that the person who abused me because of the fact that he was also being abused or had been abused in the past. And although that offers an explanation, it's not an excuse. It does not alleviate somebody of any type of responsibility for their actions. They are still responsible for what they were doing despite the fact that they were being abused at the time or have been abused. In fact, I would argue that most people who are abusers have been abused before, but that doesn't give them an excuse to abuse other people. In terms of other members of my family, I'm going to be very vague because I don't know who watches my videos and who doesn't, but I've had family members say that the reason that they act the way that they do and the reason that they've done abusive stuff is because that's how they were raised, that's how their family members treated them, that's what their family members did to them, and although, again, that might offer some type of explanation, it is not an excuse. People don't have to act the way that their parents acted. People are in charge of their behaviors to some degree. It doesn't mean that you're allowed to be abusive to somebody just because somebody was to you. We live in a society where people can learn and grow. People can break a cycle. Just because generational trauma might be a thing doesn't mean that you have to continue on with generational trauma. You are responsible for what you decide to do, and just because somebody did that to you doesn't mean that you can do it to other people. There are a lot of other excuses that abusers commonly use. People say that they have a lot going on in their life, they're really stressed out, or sometimes people have substance abuse problems and they're drunk or under the influence of drugs, or just anything of this nature. And again, that doesn't mean that they're not responsible for their actions. Despite whatever's going on in your life, you do not have the right to be abusive to somebody, and if you are, then you need to apologize for it and take accountability and change. It does not make what you did any less bad just because you have some type of excuse for why you did it. A lot of abusers will also do this to play the victim in the situation. They're trying to make it where they're out to be the victim, and they are trying to guilt trip the victim into feeling sorry for them. And so if you come to them and say, hey, what you did hurt me and affected me in this way or that way, they're trying to make themselves out to be the victim of A, B, C, D, and they turn the focus away from the fact that they hurt you and away from their actions and back onto themselves and what's going on with them, when the focus should be on them apologizing to you and on how they hurt you and on changing their behavior. Because again, we live in a day and age where people are able to change their behavior. There's lots of resources out there if somebody truly wants to change, and a lot of the times abusers will use the fact that they've been abused or the fact that they're going through something as a way to get you to stay. Oh, it won't happen again, it only happened for this reason or that reason, and then the victim will feel sorry for the abuser and stay, and the abuse will continue happening because the person doesn't truly want to change. So if you're in a situation like me, well, I was abused by an older brother who may have been acting a certain way because of the fact that he was also being abused. I want you to know that that may explain some things, but it doesn't excuse the person's behavior. If you are being abused by your parents and they are acting a certain way because their parents acted a certain way to them, that generational abuse does not have to continue. It doesn't excuse your parents' actions. They were still responsible for what they have done to you, and they're still accountable for it.